Diagnosed with 2 learning disabilities in school, David Farrow set out to defy the odds and the labels that were placed on him, and now he holds the records for memory skills. He's a man on a mission, and he's here to show us how we, you and I, and Lisa, can have a millionaire memory as well. So welcome with us, David Farrow.
Hey, thank you. That's a great handshake again. Thank you.
Thanks for being with us. Tell us about when you were first diagnosed with learning disabilities. How did that affect you? Most kids just take medication for that.
Well, yeah, and that's it. Well, thankfully, I had a wonderful mother who didn't believe in that. It was also in the early days. They still called it hyperactive disorder. It was before the label ADD and ADHD, just a couple of years before, to be honest. So medication wasn't as popular, and it was just kind of it was more of a categorizing thing. I literally had one teacher who believed in this wholeheartedly, this sort of streaming philosophy, where you find out what a kid is capable of, and then you just kind of put them in that path for the rest of their life type thing. And he literally said, you're not going to go to college, you're not going to go to university, to choose a trade or something. He was trying to, to lower my expectations and such.
Just wrote you off.
Yeah, and that just made me want to prove him wrong, to be honest with you. And I lecture at colleges and universities now. I go all across the country teaching this stuff. So it was interesting little turnaround there.
How did you begin to then develop some mental memory skills to help you overcome some of your challenges?
Well, that's exactly it. A lot of people think that your memory is just what it is. Maybe you can repeat something. Some people might, if they're trying to memorize something, they might sing it in the shower or something, but they don't really know how their memory works. There's a whole science to this. The science dates back thousands of years to even ancient Greece was when people first developed some of this stuff, and even before that in ancient Egypt and such. But it's been developed over the years, and I went on a quest for about 2 years to discover everything I could about memory and speed reading and psychology and things like that. And I used what worked, and I tried to improve on what didn't work for me, and I came up with a system that really worked well for me, and I teach it all the time. And my real passion came when I was able to prove that teacher wrong, and I actually taught some other people as well that were in the same situation I was in, but a couple of years younger, and then I realized, hey, this is a good way to make a living.
What are some of the records you actually hold for memory?
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, I'm the current Guinness World Record holder. So I broke a record back when I was 21, Guinness Book of World Records for greatest memory, and I was actually the youngest person to break that record. But recently, actually, just in April on Discovery Channel, I broke another record, and now I'm the current Guinness World Record holder for greatest memory. I memorized a whole bunch of numbers and symbols in the form of playing cards, all shuffled together. But people are really amazed when they find out how many.
How many?
You got to realize it's a Guinness record, so it's a lot. It's actually 59 decks of cards all shuffled together, 3,068 cards in total. That's usually the face I get when I hear people. 3,068 cards in total.
And you memorized the sequence?
I memorized the exact sequence, yeah.
And they were They were just given to you randomly?
They had a whole bunch of volunteers. It was all shuffled on camera, and all the cards were always on camera at all times, so I couldn't do anything with them. They weren't marked. They were inside of cases that were all sealed and everything. So.
And was this done in a certain period of time?
Well, actually, there's no time limit technically, but of course you have to do it within a certain amount of time because you don't want to forget anything, right? You don't want to have any sort of fades, so it's kind of a race to get it in and get it out. But I actually have a memory technique for you guys today.
All right.
This is something that we do with kids all the time, so everybody, you can try this
safe
with
at
your
home.
children. Oh yeah, absolutely. And the great thing about it is it really works where the education system tends to not work with some kids. This works even better for those kids because those kids are usually the more creative types. I'm hearing a lot of people at home going, oh yeah, my kid, they're very creative.
We're saying a healthy amen to that. We've got some of those creative kids at home.
So basically what we do is there's a standard memory test, and you give somebody, if you want to test their memory, a list of random objects. Okay, now these objects have a significance we'll tell after our little memory test, but I have it right here, and we're going to have it up on the screen here. But if I just take you through these objects, normally you wouldn't remember any of them. But if I showed you the way I would think of these objects, what I would do in my head, then it'll start to make sense, and you'll realize why this can really stick in your mind's eye. You might not be able to do 59 decks of cards, but you'll be able to do this. So the first item is a welcome mat. The next item is a marker. These are just random objects. But if I imagine taking a marker and scrolling all over a welcome mat and just ruining it with graffiti, I'd remember that much more because
you've got that image in your mind.
Yeah, you visualize that in your mind's eye. So everyone visualize that in your mind's eye. Now you want to wash the marker off, so you take some lukewarm water and you try to wash the marker off off of this mat and it's not working. So you got to bring in some help. The next item in the list is John Wayne. John Wayne, that's right. John Wayne is trying to wash the marker off of this. John Wayne is pouring water all over this. And the next thing in the list is actually an acting class. So imagine John Wayne's going back to acting school. He's in an acting class. You see how you kind of make a story out of it?
Okay.
The next item is a Roman legion, is a Roman. So imagine John Wayne is a Roman, like actually in The Greatest Story Ever Told.
In some movie epic, I'm sure he was a Roman somewhere.
Actually, I believe it was The Greatest Story Ever Told. It was like for 2 seconds on the screen. So he's in there as a Roman, in acting class as a Roman. And then we have a couple more items, an apple core. So imagine him eating an apple core as a Roman. He's the way a Roman would eat an apple core, I suppose, right? We have a gallery. So like a gallery of art. So what I would do to associate the apple core, because we want that to remind us of the gallery, is picture a gallery of art made up of apple cores. There's apple cores on all the walls, and all these artists love these things.
So one thing leads you to the next in the storyline you're creating.
And we have a couple more, but we can actually just test you on that for right now. Actually, let's see how well we did here. We'll turn over the page
You're
here.
the one with the great memory.
So what was the first item?
I'm needing my ginkgo biloba.
It was on the ground.
Welcome mat.
The welcome mat.
Thanks,
What did we put on the mat?
We mark on it.
Yeah, I thought he was going to have it. And what do we pour on the marker?
Lukewarm water.
Very good.
There you go. Excellent. And who was doing it?
John Wayne.
John Wayne. We're up to 4 already. And what was John Wayne going into?
Acting class.
Acting class. That's 5. And then after the acting class, what did he dress up as?
Roman soldier.
There you go. See, as long as you picture it, you're going to get it. And then what did he do as a Roman soldier?
Ate an apple core.
Apple core. So that's 6 there. And then after the apple core, where do we have the apple cores?
He went to the gallery where they were postmodern pictures of apple cores. I don't know.
So it's a gallery, yeah. And that's actually number 8. Now here is actually the secret behind this. It wasn't just a random list.
Okay.
These are little memory tips. I don't know if one of the cameras can get this, but these are little memory tips to help you remember the first 10 books of the Bible.
The books of the Bible, of the New Testament.
Matt will remind us of Matthew.
Okay.
Marker will remind us of Mark. Lukewarm water will remind us of Luke. John, I thought of John Wayne. You could use Little John or Johnny Depp if you wanted, whatever, you know.
So whatever helps you remember that particular thing, and it's sort of a word association.
Absolutely. An acting class for acts, a Roman for Romans, an apple core to remind you it's Corinthians.
Corinthians,
right?
good.
And gallery for Galatians, and then we have you'd have a gallery of feet. And you can have Phillips light bulbs in there to remember Ephesians and Philippians. So that's just a simple example of how something is, it's very difficult to memorize, it's very random, but you provide a little bit of imagination and you make a little story out of it, and all of a sudden it's just so easy to remember. And people, I've done that with kids and they remember it for not just days, but years. It just, these silly pictures stick in the mind.
I can imagine that would help. You've done some of that with our oldest daughter when she's had a number of things, just facts to remember.
Right.
But our youngest daughter has a little trouble sometimes in memorizing big chunks of things, and that would be very effective, I think, for her.
Well, one of the biggest things for that, one of the biggest tips I can give for memory and even for education in general is to take these big tasks and break them up into smaller bits. Even this list, 8 to 10 things can intimidate a lot of people, but notice we just took them 2 at a time. We just imagine the marker on the mat. Just visualize 1 or 2 things at a time and then move on. And it's just like, it's the reason why we remember stories really well, because you're told one event and then that reminds you of the next thing that happened in the story. And it's kind of like just one thing at a time. And a lot of people are asking how I overcame ADHD without any medication. And I wanted to say, well, we still had a little bit of time left, that we're facing a huge crisis in this country. It's absolutely incredible. There are some situations where there are even like kickbacks for diagnosing kids with ADHD, and because of some ways of how schools are organized, some schools actually get more funding if they have more children with ADHD, and the funding doesn't always go to the kids, but there's an incentive as a result to diagnose kids. And I can tell you from experience, from working with a lot of these kids, that medication, and I'm not 100% against them. In some cases, it has worked really well for people, but always people have to keep in mind that it is only a quick fix. It's only a Band-Aid. It will not last very long. Kids' bodies are growing, so they adapt to medication much faster than us. And as a result, we have some kids in this country that are as young as 6 and 7, and they're on Valium now because Paxil and Ritalin are not working anymore, because you build up a tolerance, but eventually you build up a tolerance to everything, and then what are you going to do? You have to actually ingrain a skill. Like education and memory is a skill set, and it can be taught. I think I've got one of the best systems to teach people. There are other systems, and I'd be happy, people can contact me on my website, and I'd be happy to share everything I know with them.
Speaking of which, the website, Millionaire Memory.
Yeah,
.com.
this is my my audio program. It has memory, mental focus, and speed reading all in one, and we're actually offering a good discount on the website for any of your viewers as well.
Well, and you haven't just used your memory skills to break records and as a novelty.
Yeah.
You have become a successful businessman, 3 companies, you've written books, you've put this curriculum together that's being used in schools and businesses. And so
Proven success with world records, things like that. You're going to want, if you struggle with memory, memorization, working on educating your kids, any of those things, want to become a millionaire.
I often say a good way to remember it is that if you want your kids to be little millionaires, go to millionairememory.com.
There you go.
Dave, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
God bless you. Take care. We'll be back with more right after this.